So, country music part two. So, you heard me mention Mark Chestnut. Mark Chestnut was a hit artist in the 90s. And recently, as I said in part one, Mark put on his Facebook with all his hundreds of thousands of followers that Zach Top is what country music needs. All right. And there's guys like me and gals who have been on the same Billboard chart. All right. So, there's one Billboard chart that all the major record labels use. They don't care about Billboard Hot 100, Billboard Hot 200. None of those matter. When you go to a discography of an artist of Morgan Wallen, Luke Combs, Luke Bryan, all those people, go look at the discography. All their number one hits, they have a few number ones in Billboard Hot 100, yes. But look at the majority of the number one hits. Guess what chart that is? Billboard Country Airplay. That is the only chart that they score their number one hits on, and the only chart that's on their desk every week, seeing when their artist is. All right, so that's the only chart that matters. All right, that's the chart I've been on. There's two ways to get there. Major record label and a secret way that 99.9% of singer-songwriters have never heard of. All right, so there's that. Go back to Mark. All right, Mark says Zach Top is what country music needs. Well, why doesn't old Honky Tonk Hero, I love his music, but see, he didn't write hardly any of it. If he even co-written any of that, I don't think he did. I can't even remember. All right, I'm pretty sure Mark didn't co-write any of his music. Therefore, he didn't write any of his music. All right, so he's just a singer who got a lot of great songs put on him. All right, so why doesn't Mark Chestnut promote his son like he promotes Zach Top? How about promoting Casey? Now see, that's where, if you are a true connoisseur of music, but especially country music, if that don't hit you, I don't know what else could. All right, here's a guy, a legend, right, who has a son who's trying to make it in country music. Why isn't Mark promoting his son? Why isn't Mark putting money behind his own son? So there's one thing. Another person recently who has called out some people but it's more political based, but still, is John Rich. John Rich has said, the major label artists, they can't say anything about politics because they're afraid that they're going to, be canceled or dropped from their label and all these things. Then he turns and he calls out Garth Brooks and Brad Paisley. First off, Garth Brooks and Brad Paisley had bigger careers already before John Rich ever had one. All right, so there's that. And I've met John. I know John. I'm not buddies with him, but I know him enough. So, John, if he ever hears this, John, why don't you tell the people how the major record labels work and how Billboard works? Oh, because that's